My name is Sadiq Bello. I am your host. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this show used to be on Voices Radio, and recently I've moved it over to Caviar Radio. So if you're listening to this on Caviar Radio, first of all, thank you for locking in. Second, if you're not, I'm assuming you're listening through Mixcloud or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music or something like that. I'm not actually sponsored by any of them, but I just felt like I should let you guys know that I'm very aware of where you're listening from and how you're listening. Today, my guest is someone who I met a couple of months ago, and we actually met because I wanted to do a show on a radio station called Soho Radio, which most of you may be familiar with. And she was able to help me out and kind of set that up. And then we met, and from literally the moment that I met her, I thought she seemed very chilled, she seemed very cool, she seemed very relaxed. And so for this particular episode, I programmed this on purpose to launch in the new year. So by the way, if you're listening, Happy New Year. But I programmed this to launch in the new year on purpose because I feel like this is the time of year where a lot of people think about like where their life is going or what purpose they have or where they want to be at. And so I thought it would be very good to have her on. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ang. Ang, would you like to say hello to the people?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Sadiq. It's so nice to have a little interview.
No, of course. Yeah, no, you're welcome. It's like literally, like I said to you, almost from, it's mad to explain this, but almost from the first moment that I met you, I literally thought this is the best person that I would want to use for this episode, which was like 6 or 7 months ago now. So I'm glad that you were able to give me your time and be able to jump on and be here. And the first thing that I actually want to ask you, right, which I hadn't planned before, but I just did now. What's the tea that you're drinking right now? What make is it? Is it like PG Tips, Earl Grey? Like, I don't know. What other teas are there?
So I'm currently in where I work full time as a producer, and it's kind of like a WeWork space. So it's a very bougie end of tea, in my opinion. But it's only a Clippers Earl Grey, but I'm actually saying this over Christmas. I've been drinking so much more Earl Grey tea rather than, I'm kind of a herbal girl, kind of like peppermint or green or chamomile. But I don't know, for this conversation I thought a wholehearted Earl Grey would be nice.
Right. So yeah, that's how, see, that's confirmed that you are actually the right person that I chose for the show. And now, you yourself as a person, like I know a couple of things about you, which I'm going to share in a second, but do you want to introduce yourself to like the group, like the kind of person that you are? Would you say you're very like mellow, chilled back and laid back in general? Or have I just caught you at a good time?
I think a bit of both. I think my friends would kind of describe me as very like thought-provoking, very loyal, and I would say quite timid, quite relaxed. I think I react to things kind of within myself, like so, rather than necessarily in a group setting. So don't get me wrong, I'm not mellow all the time, but I find that such a compliment because it is something that I've really tried to work on in the last couple of years. But yeah, I think I love a good think, I love a good conversation, like I'm very much that friend that I think my friends go to when they're in a situation and they kind of just want another person's opinion. And I'm all there for it. A deep chat is kind of like my ideal evening, day, any setting really. But I don't know, I've always been kind of thought-provoking, and I think I'm learning that it's actually quite a nice skill to have.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you, because you've just said you've always been thought-provoking, but like the mellow, chilled side of you, is that something that stems from, like, even from as a child? Did you, like, I don't know, not cry a lot, and were you like a very mellow kind of baby? Or is it like there was a part in your life where somewhere halfway you were like, I need to relax a little bit more, and then you've just kind of been practicing or like being aware of that to become the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. I feel like I've always been a listener in any situation. Like, I always have to kind of interpret information by listening first. And I guess that kind of comes with not having something to say straight away, or kind of not being as reactive straight away. But don't get me wrong, I was the crier. I would say I had a younger brother, and I was definitely the one that was would kind of feel things first.
Yeah.
He's obviously younger than me, and kind of I have that role of being the older sister, but I always have been seen as kind of the more sensitive person.
Yeah.
But I think I've definitely had to learn to just kind of not put that first, but take up every information that you can of the scenario, kind of get a wider perspective and just kind of sit with it and enjoy it. I think that's the most important thing that I learned in the last couple of years, is kind of just enjoy the present moment.
Yeah.
And then let your sensitivities get somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you seem like a person that kind of embodies that. Like, that's what I meant when I was introducing you, and I was like, even when I first met you and like, you know, I came in to do my show, you just seemed very I don't know, like a comforting person. I was like, oh, I'm glad that this is the person who's like showing me around and showing me how to do things. Whereas some people are kind of like very like rigid, and they'll be like, this is what you have to do, da da da, blah blah, boom, and then that's it. But you were very warm. You even offered me a cup of tea. So like, you see little things like that, like that you kind of embody, I find is what makes you probably the perfect kind of candidate to interview for this kind of conversation. Because even though you've just mentioned the thing about living in the present and just kind of taking things one step at a time, would you say that you tend to, is it fair to describe you as a person that puts others before themselves? And I mean that in a way that, like, not, because sometimes people don't want to say that because they don't want to come across like they're being, I don't know, Jesus or whatever. But you seem like a person who sort of looks after, like, let's say you had a group of friends and there were 6 of you. I feel like you would be the responsible one who kind of looks after everyone else before themselves. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's really nice of you saying that, and thank you again for being so kind with what you say. Everyone really appreciates it from you, and yeah, I kind of not really looked at myself in that way before. I think I definitely do put other people first, and it's maybe I actually sometimes lose out on that more than seeing like a praisal thing to do with myself. I definitely try and I have like I said, I kind of have this loyalty aspect where until I'm kind of proven wrong, and I think I have to sometimes be proven wrong a number of times, which is something I'm trying to learn. Also, I do try and make sure that everyone else is kind of feeling comfortable, because it's kind of what I would want from other people. But 2025 is actually the year where I'm trying to focus on myself more in terms of situations, and kind of understanding that there's such a beauty with showing that, but also kind of reserve it a bit more for myself, so that when I go through some more difficult situations, I have my own back a bit more. Yeah,
that makes sense. Like being more self-sufficient, I guess, and not necessarily relying on someone, or like holding yourself accountable and not picking up or relying on someone else to pick you up when you're, I don't know, in a rut or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like also, I get very led by other people's emotions. So if I know that one of my friends is feeling sad, or my partner or anything, I kind of lead off that emotion, when obviously them being sad will obviously make me sad, but I shouldn't let it necessarily guide me into what I'm feeling particularly today. And yeah, it's really interesting concept.
Yeah, no, for real. You mentioned the thing about 2025, this year, of course, that you're trying to, is something that you're trying to focus on in regards to, you know, making sure you don't lose out on things as much as in terms of putting other people before you. Were there any, well, this is actually what the episode is about. So were there any like New Year's resolutions that you were like, okay, definitely this has to happen by this year, or I need to start making like wave in this, or something that you want to, you know, sort of in terms of prospects, like in terms of your career or life or social life, or spending more time with family or spending more time with friends? Like, was there anything that you thought, okay, I have to do this year, or I need to at least start doing this year, so that my future can go in a certain trajectory that you may want it to go into?
Yeah, I have, but I'm also one of those people that I haven't written it down, so it's very like within me, but definitely spending more time with my family and friends is like a priority. I think when you move somewhere to like a city like London, and you're not necessarily from London, or your family don't live nearby. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, my internet like completely cut out, and I was like, what the hell is going on? But it's mine now. Cool, here I am. So you were saying, in terms of your New Year's resolutions this year, what I was asking was, did you have any, like plans that you had put down, in regards to maybe being a better person, spending more time with friends or family, or like career prospects, or anything that you wanted to, kind of achieve this year? And then you were saying that you hadn't written down, but I think you were just about to say what what prospects you had had for 2025.
Thank you. I kind of remembered what I was saying, but then I didn't. But I do really struggle to write these things down. It's always something that I anticipate doing each new year that goes by, but I think one of the main ones for me at the moment actually is, like you said, spending time with family and friends. I think when you dedicate yourself to finding, especially maybe a creative career, maybe more than others, but I might be wrong, you dedicate a lot of yourself to putting yourself forward in loads of situations, and that means a lot of sacrifice. And I think I'm slowly realising that career haven isn't like the only answer, and even if I got to the place where I want to get to, the people around me are going to be the ones that are going to ground me and make me feel good and appreciate what I'm doing. So really nurturing those relationships. Also, my family are getting older, and I think things like Christmas and having those kind of reunion kind of aspects of life, when you all come together and you kind of realise like, oh God, like, these people around me are getting old and things are getting more difficult, or things aren't as simple as what they once were. I just think it's really valuable to nurture those relationships and look after them. So that's definitely one of them. But also, I've actually started to get into, I don't know if this is controversial to you or if you've already done it, but a bit of manifestation.
Okay. Let's dive into that. Right. And manifestation as in like you're manifesting what's going to come into you in the future, or you mean just reading up on what manifestation can do?
A bit of both. I got given a book at Christmas because I've been mentioning it a bit to my family and friends. And I got into journaling as kind of like a therapy method to kind of just get everything out on paper. And I've seen lots of interviews with people, like there was one with Chris Martin, who's like the lead singer of Coldplay, and he says like he spends 9 minutes as soon as he wakes up journaling. Whatever. It's kind of like free journaling, so you don't really have a concept, you just kind of write what's come to you, whether you had a bad dream or what you were feeling or anything, and then he literally rips out that page and either burns it or like throws it straight in the bin. And it's kind of just that it's a physical method of allowing a thought to leave your head, and then as you gradually get into a routine of that, it feels like all these kind of thoughts that you're holding within you can be let go easier. And I think for me that is something as well, like a physical form of seeing something burn, or like know that no one else is going to believe that. It allows you that comfort of like, okay, like that thought might have been stupid, but it's been stupid for a moment and now it's kind of gone. So it kind of started from that.
Well, that's the question I was about to ask you, is have you done, if you don't mind sharing that, have you done that method where you've written something on paper and you've burnt it, and what did you feel after you did it? Has it like helped in any way? Because this sounds very interesting to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it sounds really kind of, I don't even know. I can't remember when like you love fire. I can't remember what that word is, but it's like, it's not, it's more of just like I said, like a physical form of seeing a thought kind of disappear. And like I've had therapy in the past quite briefly, and I definitely recommend for anyone that can be in that position to have therapy and like spend that time with yourself. It's such an investment, and I want to do it more. Another thing of 2025, but we'll get to that. But it's very much a method of like not letting your thoughts overrun your kind of present self, like we've mentioned before. I think a lot of the time you can be led by your thoughts and not remembering that they're just a thought and they don't have to happen so sporadically, and you don't have to action on them, and they don't actually necessarily will be true because it's very internal. And I just think, I've done it before where I've only burnt one like a couple of times because of the scenario. It's not really appropriate, but it's more of just like throwing away and knowing that like that's safe.
It now. It's gone.
It's gone. It's left your head, which I think is like the first and most important step, is that you're able to connect to yourself enough to write this weird situation that you might have, or write this feeling that you might have to someone, or whatever it is, to have even that connection with yourself, to understand it as a concept, and that it is a thing, and that you're not just going to keep it internalized to just you. Writing it down, and like I said, I definitely think it's the physical aspect of being like, okay, do you know what? Especially if it's something that's like emotionally driven through anger or sadness, to like screw something up or like burn it, it allows you to have that release of some sort. And I think that method really helps when thoughts might be like piling on top of you a bit.
Of course. That's actually so amazing that like the way that you've just broken that down, because I've never thought about doing that. This is the first time ever hearing of it, like the manifestation. Like I hear people talk about manifestation, but it's always something about like, I'm going to manifest like this house, and this house is going to come to me, or manifest this car, whatever it is. But like the way that you break it down has made me actually now think it's almost going to change like the way that the conversation was going. But I'm now starting to think like, where do thoughts actually come from? Because like when you say, okay, you know, you have a thought in your head and it says, and maybe it's like, oh, my tea has gone cold. Now you could say that thought has come because you were looking at your cup of tea and your cup of tea have gone cold. I know that now because I'm looking at my cup of tea as I'm having this conversation with you. But then you can only go so far back to be like, okay, but the original thought, like, where does it come from? Because sometimes you're lying in bed and then something might just hit, and something might just say, oh, I don't know, I need to do this or I need to do that. And then that will guide your emotion, which will then lead you to do everything that you're doing. And so now I'm trying to wonder, like, where do those thoughts come from? Because I'm the kind of person who, if I was doing that and like writing down these thoughts and burning it on a piece of paper, I would also write down like, oh, I wonder why I feel this way, or where did this come from, and then burn that. But I don't know, like, if there's that leads me to think, is there like a greater answer or greater, I don't know, thing outside of us? And so for you, what I'd like to ask is, do you believe in like, you know, something greater than yourself, if you don't mind me asking? Like, whether it's the universe, God, spirituality, whatever it might be, but is there something outside of yourself that you believe in, so that, you know, when you have these moments where you're manifesting and writing things down on paper, and let's say you felt completely hopeless, is there something maybe inside of you, or maybe it's God, or maybe it's religion, or something that you look to where you could be like, well, hey, I need your help? Like, what is that for you?
I think I did grow up, not really. I went to a Christian school when I was like in primary school. It was kind of, I would go to church on Wednesdays, but my mum and dad divorced and like I moved area, and it just didn't really stay as like a consistent thing in my life. So I'd say I lean to it in a religion sense. I believe in it more for myself as like an energy beyond your headspace and your kind of, I guess, life and circle and everything. Like there's a wider space, and that can come under, and that can come under like universe. But there is a neuroscientist called Dr. Tara Swart who incredible, and I really recommend that you go and watch her. She talks about like the neuroscience behind how your brain works, like why it goes that way and that way. I think it's much about like retraining your brain to kind of overall benefit your life more, and maybe that allow you to have an open mindset and allow you to kind of lead yourself to a path that you know, like within you, that you deserve. And because with manifestation, like you were saying before, I literally thought exactly the same. I was like, I'm going to manifest this career with this salary that
yeah.
And that does kind of end up being an eventual goal, but it's actually more about, okay, so that's what you want, that's something that you've looked forward towards. How are you going to, from now on, open your mindset to allow that to become your reality? How are you going to accept these opportunities that come your way and salute yourself for it and respect yourself for it? And yeah, it's just like a healthier mindset overall. And it's like law of attraction. That's also where if you're putting out this kind of hopeful and positive energy in all aspects of your life, then I do believe the universe will acknowledge that and feed it back to you in ways. And also knowing that you have very little control in a lot of things. The only thing you do have control is yourself and what you choose.
And how you react to things. Well, it's funny that you bring that up, because so that's my outtake on life. I'm a very firm believer in I can literally do, I don't know if I use the word manifesting like in the right way, but I really believe that I can do anything that I need to do. Because if everything in your life, ultimately, there are some things that are out of your control, and the only thing that you can really control is how you react to something. But I find like the way that you react to something will generally write out the narrative of where it goes. So for instance, if now I met you for the first time and you were very warm, you were very welcoming, you made me a cup of tea or whatever, or you offered me a cup of tea, and then we sat down and had, all of that has led into us even being able to sit here and have this conversation. And so I'm like, I probably didn't manifest, or you didn't manifest that, oh cool, one day you go, I want to be over here and sitting in the bang and having this conversation. But I did sit and think like, I would like to be in a position where I'm able to talk to people and learn a lot of things from and see life from their perspective and so forth. And so all of these little decisions that we're making every single day, I think are leading us towards getting the house. And I think the mistake that most people make is they'll say something like, I want to manifest a big house and a salary and a car and whatever it is, when realistically, what they should be asking is, okay, why do you want those things? And you say, well, because if I have those things, I will feel fulfilled. Then I'm like, well, really what you should be manifesting is, I would like to feel fulfilled in my life, whatever that may look like, whether it's, herding sheep or or drinking tea or having a house or a salary or whatever it is. But it's like, if you manifest the emotion that goes with it, then for me, that's more important. And so that's how I look at things like spirituality or religion or God or whatnot, because I believe if there is a creator and you created this whole human race or this species of people, then if you want the best for me, what you should actually be doing is trying to make me as independent of you as possible, so that I can make my life good without always asking you for a favor. So that's why I don't necessarily, if I ever do speak to God or pray, I'm rarely ever asking for things. It's more just like giving thanks. Just be like, oh, you gave me an opportunity to wake up again today. So, which means, you've made me wake up so that I can carry on doing whatever it is that you want me to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That is generally, so I'm reading a book called Manifest 7 Steps to Living Your Best Life, which from the title, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if that's kind of hitting me where I need to hit it. Honestly, I think it's everything that you're saying. It's realizing that all these materialistic things that life and society makes you believe that you should desire, and I think we do live in a life where having those things is obviously an advantage, but it's actually more about reflecting it internally to yourself and giving thanks to the things that you do have and acknowledging where that could then go to, and being excited by that future prospect of your life and the opportunities that will come your way. And for me especially, last year was kind of, I'm sure it was for everyone I've spoken to, it has been, but it was a very up and down year, and it was there were good things and there were bad things, and it would be very much rocky road. So up until this point I wasn't really interested in manifestation, because I would be wanting things that, like you said, don't just come to you when you wish for them, in terms of like, oh, I wish I have a car tomorrow, I wish I have a job with a salary tomorrow. But I'm more in the mindset of like, if I don't start appreciating what I do already have, if I ever did get to that point just out of luck of having a car or having a house, I will still be sitting at the same spot that I'm in right now. I would still be in this mentality, and there's somewhat of sad.
You would still feel like the way that you feel, irregardless, because you're still in your head. So it's like, my head has to be right before I can get, you know, $1 million or whatever. And I think that's right, because most people don't focus on trying to get their head right. I feel that's also the answer as to why sometimes people win the lottery and then 2 years broke. And it's because regardless of how much money you had, or what car you were driving, or what house you had, you were still in the wrong headspace to be able to handle those things. And so that's why, cool, you won a lottery ticket, you got £1 billion, and now you're broke again. And they're like, oh my God, how did you spend all that money? But it's because you were still being guided by your emotions and thoughts, which you didn't work on. And that's why you're now broke. Probably. I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's so much more than having and achieving all of these things. And it's really interesting because I'm very much a person that I love watching interviews with people as like a YouTube hole. It's one of my YouTube holes. It's like cultural interviews, and every celebrity that you or I impersonate as successful always comes back to, okay, well, I've got this success, but I'm really trying to strip my life back down again. Or I've got this success and I'm looking to religion, which I didn't really look to before. Or, you know, there's things that if you were to ask them, what do you treasure most? It's probably family, friends, and kind of just like getting into a right headspace. And I think I've really tried to teach myself that having those luxuries is obviously a luxury, but if you have those luxuries and have it to share with people that you love, or you have those foundations already built, those luxuries you can kind of like turn away also. Like, if you ever get to that point.
Sorry, carry on.
No, that was all I was going to say. You go ahead.
I was saying, one of the greatest things I ever heard from, actually it was a friend of mine who, he's also like, he's in a loving relationship, he's married, been with his wife for like 8 years or something like that. Fantastic. And I was trying to explain to him, I said, when I think about like my partner, I couldn't possibly put into words like how I feel about her, and being like, you know, it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, how did I survive so long without you? And now you're here and this is great and everything is fantastic, etc., etc. And then he said to me, the only way that he's found to explain the love that he has for his wife is that nothing else will literally matter without her. So when he thinks about things like money, car, house, successful career, etc., etc., and having all of those things, he's like, but none of those things are worth having if she's not there to share it with. Whereas right now, he doesn't have those things, but he's got her, and his life is still worth having. Like, he doesn't feel like, you know, he doesn't feel suicidal or anything. And still he's like, that's how he realizes that that's more important than anything else. Because what's the point in having all of that if you don't have somebody to share it with? And I think this can go down to all aspects of life, even with DJs or musicians or artists who say, like, you might find DJs that will say, oh my God, I want to play a big festival and tour all around the world. And then they start playing Glastonbury and all of these festivals, and they tour around the world and make all this money, but they still keep striving for more. And it's because it will never actually fully fulfill them. So they'll do Glastonbury, and then now it's like, okay, I've got to do it again, or I've got to do this, and you're constantly chasing this high or chasing the dragon. Whereas with a relationship, like with my partner, I don't think I ever look at her and think, I wish you were a better person. Like, I just take her for what she is. Do you know what I mean? And I think we do that with family as well. Like, I don't think I've ever looked at, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have, you know, parents that I feel this way about, but I don't think I've ever looked at my mum and thought, oh, I wish you were a better person, or I wish I had 2 of you, or I wish I had 5 of you, or whatever. Whereas with all the other things that we're talking about, when we talk about money, like, you can never really have enough money, or you can never really have enough, like, cars. The only time that you actually feel that is when you have enough people to share it with. So I might be like, okay, I'm lucky enough to know 6 people, and I have a house that all of these 6 people can sit in. So now I don't need another house. But it's not the house that's actually brought me that satisfaction. It's the 6 people that I'm with in the house that has brought me that satisfaction. And so it just goes back to the thing you were saying about why these celebrities, you know, make a lot of money, and then all of a sudden you ask them, well, what is it that you're chasing now in life? And they're like, well, it goes back to friends or family or religion or whatever, because they realize, well, look, I've got all of the money and I've got all the success and I've got all the fame, but there's still something else I'm searching for. And so maybe that's what makes them think, you know, okay, let me go back to the basics. And it's a shame that, like you were mentioning, we live in a society or in a world where, like, there's no way to know that until you try to get it, and then you don't get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way for me to know that £1 million isn't going to make me happy until I get the £1 million. So that's probably what everyone is chasing. Yeah.
It is so much about the chase, and like I was saying before, in London, that chase is ridiculous. To just get and talk to someone, not even a financial bit. You know, there's so much sacrifice. It's very competitive. But I think I've learned in the last year, like meeting people like yourself and having Voices community and Soho Radio's community and just the music scene in general, there's so much beauty behind it, and there's so much like growth and DIY and just like human qualities behind it that make you think, okay, like, you don't have to be chasing this really sterile version of what you want your dreams to be. You can have all of these other kind of avenues, and I think a lot of it is also about just remembering, are you still wanting to do this because you enjoy it, or are you just caught up in this chase and actually you're quite sad or lonely or all of. I think that's a really big thing to kind of also learn from when I was been journaling things, is asking myself, like, do I still want to continue this? Do I still want to have this opportunity to keep on going, and do I still have that fight in me? I mean, I think the world that we live in, for all of the wrong reasons, is just so brutal, and loss is happening, especially at the moment. And it's so okay if I turn around tomorrow and it's like, you know what? I would be so happy to just, I don't know, go to the countryside, live there,
and just chill.
Yeah, and just kind of isolate myself again. And if that makes me feel good about myself, then that's what I need. And realizing that, like, life can throw you some horrible things, but also there's so much beauty and grounding things to enjoy. And I think the music scene in London definitely makes me realise that. Like, when you go to a very wholesome, low key gig, like a underground venue, and you're just like, this is just so nice that someone has invested so much of their talent into something and then want to perform it to you, and you enjoy their performance and what they're good at, and you're just this is what life's about.
That's literally what it is. It's just that, like, you should, like, that's how I feel about DJing, right? I never, like, explain this properly, but, like, I just like mixing. I don't know any other way to explain it to people, but I'm just like, that moment when you're mixing one song into the other, I just absolutely love that. And when it happens, that's all it is. That's literally all I care about. I'm not trying to be, you know, like a mogul or Mr. Mark Zuckerberg or any of these people. Not that there's anything wrong with them. Like, and even with them, most of the people who are now billionaires, you find that they're billionaires because they just carried on doing what they enjoy doing. So another example is actually this conversation we're having. Like, I didn't necessarily like ask you to have this conversation with me because I wanted to get 1 million YouTube views, or because I thought, oh yeah, cool, this is going to get me in with like the Voices or the Soho Radio community. Or no, I just thought, I want to learn about Anchor because it just seems interesting. And so because of that, I enjoy doing this a bit more. Whereas there will be someone who may do exactly the same thing. They might ask you to interview, they might sit down, they might have a conversation with you, but they may not enjoy it as much as I have or I am. And that's because they're not really enjoying or listening to the conversation. What they're focused on is, oh, I hope she says something that will get me like 1 billion YouTube views. And then they realize they do that, they get the 1 billion YouTube views, and then it's like, okay, now what? And then they'll go and try and get the next person. And I feel like if you live life like that, it's very exhausting. It's very exhausting to constantly chase or be looking for the next thing. Sometimes you just sit in the moment and be present, which, relates back to your New Year's resolution of just being present and just enjoying the fact that we're here. Like, how miraculous is it that I'm able to sit here with you and have this conversation in, like, first of all, a city that I'm not even from. I'm from Nigeria, right? And it's like, you've moved into London, and we're sitting here and we're able to communicate. We're actually able to just sit here, drink tea and communicate. Like, this is the beauty of life. The fact that we don't have to do anything right now. Like, I don't have to, there's like, even the small things, like, I don't have to do laundry right now. I don't need to cook. I don't need to do anything. I'm just sitting here and having this conversation with you. That's the beauty of life. And I think a lot of people miss that, because you'll be doing that in London, and then all of a sudden someone will drive by in like a Rolls Royce, and you're like, oh, now I want that. But it's like, no, you don't want the Rolls Royce. You want this particular moment just to be able to wake up and breathe,
Yeah. Definitely.
What I want, sorry, carry on.
I was just going to add that I think there's so much inauthentic content out there at the moment. Like, it's mind-blowing about how much is being made. And also, I think people forget that, like, a lot of things that are made, there's normally like teams of at least 20 people making this to have this kind of outcome of, getting these, like you said, billions of views, or doing this and doing that. It's like, everything's curated to have a purpose, and sometimes if that purpose is inauthentic, you're just brain numbing, or I can't remember the new term that they've got, which is, I don't think it's brain numbing, but it's like brainwashing or something.
Brainwashing, mind numbing.
Yeah, it's like doom scrolling, and like, it's a newfound kind of investigation that they're making, that we're literally numbing down the capacity of our brain due to the influx of content that we have. So to add on top of that I would probably say, unfortunately, at least 60-70% is inauthentic and not
I agree with that.
Driven with the right like outcome or conversation, or like there's an evil kind of twist to it. It just scares me, that the fact that I can see it in myself as well. This is what I find even more scary, is that I notice the need to kind of like fidget in something, or getting bored after 2 minutes, and that's like me pushing myself. Like, my form of content that I enjoy the most is actually old school, like YouTube videos, which is not like the length of like a film of like 90 minutes, but normally 30 minutes. And I'm like, even that in itself, like, I've gone from a generation before me that would kind of look at films as like a form of content to sit through, and people still do, obviously, but I really struggle to kind of give my attention 100% to that.
Now you should try it. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
I know, and this is what annoys me, is that I don't open that door for myself, like, I'm a creative, like I'm a singer-songwriter as well, like I get drawn inspiration from things, and my partner's actually aspiring to be a director, like, and he's
we spoke about that.
He's with someone that I can if I really, really try, but I don't see it as like a pleasurable thing. I don't see it as like an enjoyment.
Right.
It's so interesting and weird. A whole world that I'm just not tapping into. So that's another New Year's resolution.
Yeah, no, be present. I mean, if there's anything that I could add to that or say, I'd be like, to be present. Like, think of, like, right now, even something so simple as, like, I don't know if it's gone cold now, but like the cup of tea that you made before this conversation, like, if you focus on the fact that you're just drinking this tea and you really just, like, think about how it tastes, once you start doing that with everything in your life, I swear to you, life is so enjoyable. It is so enjoyable. Like, I haven't gone to an event unless I'm DJing or I know the person who is playing or DJing until in like close to about a year, probably. And the reason for that isn't because I don't think like it's not being self-centered and saying, oh, my life is more important than anyone else or da 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 da. No, it's just that I enjoy the things that I'm doing so much that it takes a lot to get me to move to the next like moment. So like even right now in this conversation I'm having with you, I'm conscious of the fact that like, okay, cool, it's 12:55, I've almost got to go, but I'm enjoying this conversation so much that I'm like, oh, I don't want it to end because I'm not in a rush to see the next thing. And I find that a lot of the time what makes people do things like doom scroll or go to the next thing or so forth and have such a short attention span is because it's that idea of, oh, there's something else I'm going to miss out, or there's something else I'm going to do. And this is my like quote unquote beef that I have with things like even dating apps. Like some people, to be honest, meet on dating apps. Like my brother met his wife on Match.com. They've been married now 9 years, got 2 nephews. They fell in love. Cool. But that's because when he came across her profile or she came across his profile, they then gave each other their complete attention. But what seems to happen now on someone on Tinder with the idea of like swipe right, swipe left, swipe left, swipe right. Even when you swipe right on someone, my theory is that people don't give that person enough attention because even while they're talking to that person, they're like, oh, but what's next? I need to like see what it is. And so if you live life like that, you never get to actually enjoy the things that you are doing or having. So sometimes I come across like I'm like crazy or some sort of like kumbaya person, but it's just because I want everyone to realize like just do the thing you're doing now and enjoy it. Like now, the chair you're sitting on, think about how comfortable that chair is, or like, do you know what I mean? And a lot of the anxiety comes from like, today is my day off at work. I would be very anxious if all I was thinking about was, tomorrow I've got to go to work. Because now I'm thinking about tomorrow. So now I'm not even going to enjoy today because all of a sudden I've got to go work tomorrow. Or I could just enjoy the fact that, oh, right now I'm sitting on this chair and it's mad comfortable. And you know what would be good right now? I could go for a hamburger or a burrito or whatever it is. And then when I'm eating that burrito, enjoy the taste of the burrito. It's really like as simple as that. I think of anyway. But yeah, before we actually go, I wanted to talk about your show. You've got a show that I would like the people to know so that they can tune in when you do it. It's called Savage Selections. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? Because I feel like I've tuned into one of your episodes. I tuned into one of your Voices episodes, but I haven't listened to a few of the others, but I always mean to. But do you want to tell them a little bit about it? Because it might actually help someone like reshape their mind to think in the same way that you do.
I mean... Thanks for the promo, I appreciate that. Savage Selections is something I've been doing for a while. I mean, my career at the moment is in radio production, and that all started from volunteering in Brighton at a radio station that was like youth-led, and my contribution to that was having a show, and that's kind of where Savage Selections was born, and then the kind of producer and everything else aspect followed after. But Savage Selections at the point that it is now is, so like you said, I have it on Voices, which is more of kind of like selection space, although this year I want to invite guests to Voices. But on Soho Radio, it's more about uplifting independent artists. A series called City Scopes, which was jumping from city to city in the UK and was going to go beyond that and will go beyond that. But honing in on a city and just seeing what's being released out of there at that current time.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lovely concept.
Yeah, it kind of floats between like BBC introducing, I guess, and kind of like having those specific areas. But I think just having like dedicating a whole 2 hours to a city, because there is so much music out there. Yeah. Like we were content. Like, it's just the same with music. There are so many musicians out there that are really struggling to kind of find their platform and find their voice within this industry. And yeah, I feel like if I have an opportunity to host someone on that or let them kind of play live, I really love doing live sessions. I find it's kind of the best way to kind of understand what someone is trying to express, because I wouldn't have been live or whatever. But also it's very much about their selections as well. So I kind of do a thing of half of it is them giving me their kind of most recent playlist. So I have like 5 questions and they answer with a track, and then we kind of go through those tracks, because that's also new musicians and artists that are about at the moment through other artists, because they are in that kind of world. And I think people forget that the expert of that world is someone that's in that world and
of course,
placing themselves in those situations. But yeah, it's very much about uplifting newfound talent. It's been a passion of mine for a bit. So yeah,
that's such a beautiful concept.
Thank you.
It really is. Yeah, because you see that now when you were just explaining that. Because with cities, you could go on forever. You could literally go, you could do the UK, then you could do Asia, you could do like that, you could literally do. And what that will do is it will uplift people who think like, you know, no one is paying attention to me, but this like person from the UK has managed to found my stuff and is actually talking to the world about it. So I'm going to make a more conscious effort to, because I listened to one of your episodes on Voices, and there was actually a song that was on there, but I've forgotten the name of the group now. It was Soul or something, but the name of the song was called Home, and it was like home, home, home. That's literally what I remember. And I was like, oh my God, this is a beautiful show. I love this. I'm going to talk to you about this. But now that I understand that concept, I look forward to like more of the shows that you'll be doing, because I'd want to really tap into that and see what I'm missing out in the world that you may discover.
I really need to hone back into it. This is another life. And one last thing that I'm going to say that I've just realised is like my biggest New Year's resolution is you know the saying where it's like, if it's not being made for you, like you need to go and make it. I think it's really important that people acknowledge and hone in on like their talents that they've made out of their love for something, whether that's through music, whether that's through literally anything like gaming or whatever, like something that you do when you want to be alone and enjoy yourself. Hone in on that, and in this capitalist world monetize off that, you know, like as long as, like you said before, enjoying it is the priority for me, definitely. But if no one's making that walkway for you, you have to kind of make it yourself, you know. And people won't always know that you're a talented artist, painter, whatever, but if you kind of portray yourself as that and acknowledge that, then that's what people will know you for. And I think that's really simple, but I think people don't hone in on their talents enough.
And that's the thing, that's the way you'll find your tribe. But people don't hone in on their talents because they're probably busy honing in on something that they feel will bring them some sort of monetary value, going back to, you know, the cars and the houses.
Or working for it takes up so much of your time that you don't have that time. But I completely need that to survive by paying rent and doing all of these things. But it's just making sure that even if it's literally like, imagine what 20 minutes a day could do if you did that for a year. You know, it really allows you to still connect with yourself, but also just tap into what makes you happy 20 minutes of your day, and then you can go back to the grind of being able to afford to live.
Exactly. Nah, that's that's a great message to end on. I've actually enjoyed the whole episode, to be honest. I really do wish it wasn't coming to an end. Like, I know you've got to go because you've got stuff to do, but this is what I meant when I set out to do this show and talk to you, and this is what I do with all my guests when I talk. Like, I never plan questions, because I don't want it to be a precedent. I just want them to be themselves, and I'll just be able to ask them and just flow off their conversation. So thanks for actually, you know, giving me the time and being here to pick your brain a little bit and see about the kind of person you are.
Thank you. Like, big congrats to you to building your own platform. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying, like, investing in yourself. You've created a little baby in the last couple of months, and it's all yours, and you should be so proud of that, because so many people don't have the guts and understanding to just go for it. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
You're welcome, and like, thank you for saying that, because now it makes me feel good. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? Ang said I'm doing it right, so forget what all of you lot think. So obviously, like I said, that's cool. Cool. All right, excellent. Well, I'll let you get on with your day. Thanks for being in an interview, and for those of you who are listening, I hope you enjoy what's coming up next on Caviar Radio. It's probably going to be like Afrobeats or something. I haven't scheduled it in yet, but yeah, this was Ang, and this was Sadiq Bello and Everyday People, and I hope you guys have a great day. All right, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.